Hi guys, Dogger here with a new video. In this video, we're going to make a PvP tier list video for TBC, and this is going to be a no BS tier list. I'm going to go over for probably season 1, season 2. I'm not going to go through the later phases because first and foremost, most people are going to play the first phases, and I would not choose a class or spec based on like Sunwell patch, so I'm not going to do that. But if you're like choosing class based on PvP performances directly from season 1 and season 2, we're going to discuss that. Now, it's going to be a no BS tier list, and it's going to be more based around 2v2 instead of 3v3. 2v2 is the most popular bracket, especially in TBC. Just in general, you have way more people playing 2v2. Now, obviously, you can also play 3v3. The specs are a bit more vast. You can play and you can make it work a lot better in a lot of circumstances. But I would say, like, in 2v2, you can play some fast-paced games, and often double DPS can work. Like, it happens, right? While in threes, you can play triple DPS, but most of the time you're going to play versus RMP, RMD. You could play also versus a Red War Shaman, for example. You could also play like versus a Shadow play, although that's really limited. You can play also versus Rogue, Warlock, a Druid. Those are the comps that you would face a lot of times. So yeah, the diversity is way more into twos than in threes in my mind, at least. Now let's talk right away the tiers, right? S tier means that it is god tier, like it's good in a lot of comps. You can make it work instantly. You can make it work double DPS, healer DPS, or like it has one big staple comp, which really that comp is going to overtake twos anyways, and threes you can make it work as well. Random EGs as well, but that's like a limited factor because I think a lot of the classes and specs that might be bad in arenas could be good in random BGs, like in Arati Base, in Warsong Gulch, Eye of the Storm, AV. But that's way too hard to judge. I think if you put those BGs as like a full-on perk into the tier list, it makes it very hard to just judge it at every single level because, for example, Boomy. Let's talk about Boomy first. Boomy is a spec that is just like it's fun in BGs. You can like boom people pretty much with like Starfire, but in twos or in threes, you're not going to have a lot of time where you're going to be able to cast spells. I think in threes you can make it work, obviously, because you have comps that you can like play itself. Like you can play Warlock Boomy with a Shaman, for example. You can play Boomy with a warrior and then a priest. You can play like there are comps that you can make work, but it's not fantastic. That's why I'm going to put that in a C tier. I would even say D tier to be fair, but let's say C tier because I am biased. I play Druid, and I like Boomy. Now there is Dream State as well. I could judge Dream State instead of Boomy, but Dream State in twos would require you to be more of a healer than a DPS. You're not going to DPS all the time. You're going to DPS when the damage dealers are CC'd, for example. What is good about Boomy is, for example, being able to Cyclone. Cyclone is very strong, and you have a entry damage dealing go. If you're like Boomy, full on Boomy, you have 3 ounce, which is not that great, but it is okay, and it actually does damage. And you should try to not spam. Like you can spam Moonfire, but remember that priest can just dispel 2 dots at us like directly in one like one dispel magic. So it really is not required to have dots up at all times because it's just going to get dispelled regardless. If you can do a cyclone and then spam rafts or spam starfires or fish like with a moonfire proc the nature's grace, so you can actually cast faster. That can help you to get your damage off, but you are like a lot of hybrids more likely to heal in the match than actually dealing the DPS damage. In random BGs, you can have a lot of fun with it. I have fun with Balance Route. I really like it. I think if there was a solo queue system, you could, like in 3v3 solo queue, like for example in War Main, you can actually like win games, but it is TBC is Rogue and Mage craft. Like it's those two specs are like classes are going to be at all times like present, and those classes actually like do well versus Balance Druid. Balance Druid can obviously shift away from a mage, but that's just not enough for you to survive damage, obviously. So I think C tier is a great spot to be in. I have obviously Feral Druid as well, and Feral Druid is a bit better in my mind. I actually like 2v2 Feral Druid, most likely with a double DPS comp. For example, Druid Rogue. You have a lot of videos from Spotman, for example, that really makes it work. You can also play with a healer, which most likely will be a Disc Priest, for example. So you can actually win on mana. You know, you don't have, it's not really, but you don't have an MS effect. So the damage is not likely to stick if there is a healer against you. Now you can win with CC, and CC is king in TBC. If you are actually able to do a long CC chain, you can win games based on that. So I'm going to put that on a B tier in my mind. It could be higher a bit later in the tier. So now let's talk about Resto Druid. Resto Druid is the best healer, I would say, in twos. Well, I would say it depends on comp, obviously. But for me, the Resto Druid is really good. Now, obviously, in Season 1, you like stats. That's for sure. But again, I need to think about Season 2 as well. Because I said Season 1, Season 2. I do believe like Resto Druid, it actually deserves S tier. And like I said, you don't need to go deep Resto Druid. You can also go Dream State. It's the same like thing for Balance Druid. While Dream State is more of a Resto Druid thing in my mind. It's like if you have and you can spare some offensive play, you can make it work, especially since like being able to do cyclones, being able to heal, being able to defend yourself with bear form, having stealth as well. You have great CC. It's just in general like entangling roots. Like you can do it like on a warrior, and if he's playing like warrior resto shaman, that really sucks for the resto shaman because he cannot liberate the warrior. I do believe like Resto Druid really deserves S tier, and that's why like if you want to roll through it, it is a safe bet, but you will have to heal. Now, Season 1, Season 2, I do believe like SLSL is a A tier spec. I think a lot of people are like saying that it's S tier, and still is like that, but like TBC Classic, so the 2021, I think, of 2020, I don't remember the year, kind of proven that SLSL really falls flat very fast. Like for Season 1, it's really sturdy, does a lot of sustain, and it is hard to kill. But the issue with SLSL is that it doesn't really have too much damage. Like it is about sustaining, and yes, versus the double DPS comp, you can out-sustain them, and you can have like double Voidwalker shield, and that helps a lot. But you miss the CC, for example, that as a Fell Hunter can give, or a Succubus. You most likely are going to play with a Rogue, and for me, my mind is how much weight does the Rogue pull contrary to a Warlock like SLSL, and I feel like it kind of gets carried through. So I don't know. It really depends. It really depends. But yeah, in my mind, I think 8 here. Demonology Warlock is like full-on Demonology Warlock. It has no real damage itself, because you most likely are going to try to get Shadowburn at least. So an instant corruption is like a need. I think in my mind it is like E tier. Yeah, I don't see Felguard as like a valuable pet in arenas. You can make it work most likely in random BGs or like in 1v1, why not? Because you're very sturdy, but you miss the soul, the siphon life part, right? You have soul link, but you don't have a siphon life, which replenishes your HP. And having played Demonology Warlock, like full-on Demonology Warlock on the War main server, I really didn't like the damage potential of it. Like I think it's too flat. it is not impressive. So for me, it's going to be E tier. Affliction Warlock, I really like it. I just think it's not a season 1, season 2 thing. The idea of Affliction Warlock is that obviously your dots last way better because you have a unstable affliction and you have more damage technically than an SLSL, but you are very squishy. It's more of a 3 thing in my mind, and even then you would prefer SLSL at first seasons. I'm going to put that at B tier because I do feel like it's better than Bronze Druid, but you are like the target every single time as well in 2s. Like in 2s, in 3s, it's very hard to like let the Warlock just be free casting. It doesn't really have like it just doesn't have mobility, and that's why they added mobility in the next expansions. But yeah, I feel like if you really want to have fun, like I think a stable affliction UA Warlock is really fun and really good if you are playing with like a mate that is really there to peel you, and it depends on who you're facing. If you're facing like, let's say, I don't know, let's say a Retribution Paladin Shaman, that could be a fun match. Rogue, Affliction Warlock, like unstable Affliction Warlock, and versus a Resto Shaman. You can probably survive a bit, but even then there's a Purge. Even then there's also obviously the Wind Fury proc that can happen for Retribution Paladin, which you probably would die. So I don't know. I'm going to put that as a B tier. I might just lower them like that, right? I think that could be a play in a few pieces that I'm going to put right now on the tier list. I already made a most fun tier list, so if you want to play for fun, that's okay, because I will do that. I'm not choosing a class or spec based on this tier list, but some people do. That's why I'm going to put that there so you can see. Now, Destruction Warlock. That's why I have to lower stuff, right? I think I'm going to lower stuff. Yeah, I think I'm going to lower stuff. I do believe like Destruction Warlock is on the same tier as Boomy. You have to cast, and it's very tough to cast because you don't really have mobility. You don't have like fast casts. That's why they put like backdraft. Once I think was it Wrath of, I think it's Wrath that got backdraft, where if you're doing a conflag, you get like a faster casting. I think it might be Cataclysm even, but I don't remember. It's tough. Destruction Warlock is not really good in arenas, especially in 2s. Like, you're the target and you don't have any cast that is actually meaningful. That is going to be casted, right? And if you're facing a rogue, he's going to Cloak of Shadows the cast that goes through, and you're basically cooked. So even though you have great instant damage like with Shadow Burn, and once you have Immolate, you can conflag. That can be a big burst, and you have obviously Shadow Fury, which is also a good and fun ability. But outside of that, you really are like empty, and that's just not enough. That's just not enough. Now another S tier, obviously, Frost Mage. It just plays very well with a rogue. You can even play with a healer. You can play even with a Warlock, to be fair, like SLSL Warlock. If you play it right, you could technically win. It's still like a very hard comp, don't get me wrong. You can even play double Frost Mage. It's obnoxious to play against. Or you can play Retribution Paladin Frost Mage, and that helps a lot with the survivability of the Frost Mage. And you have a lot of peel behind it. It is like exceptional. Like a lot of people regard Frost Mage as the pinnacle for TBC PvP, and I do agree. Like it's really good. Like you are countering the stronger specs in TBC as well. The only thing is like if you're playing versus a Resto Druid, you cannot really polymorph it, but oftentimes if you're playing Rogue Mage, you could burst through it, and one like blanket silence could really make the Resto Druid lose the game, because he's going to trinket the kidney probably. So he's going to kidney he's going to trinket the kidney, and if he is not trinketing the kidney, he might be blinded after it. You can switch on the DPS, or he's going to get blanket silence, and at that point he has to trinket. But most likely he's going to trinket the kidney, and then you have a blanket silence ready for when he is wanting to heal. And you can also just spell steal a lot of stuff as well. So yeah, I think Frost Mage is really like top tier, so I'm going to put it above Restored even. Then you have obviously Subtlety Rogue, going to be S tier as well. I'm going to put them as well, like together. It's really strong. It has the mobility now, it has the CC, it has the blinds, it has the vanish, it has evasion, it has cloak, it has so many things that is just too good for rogues. Again, TBC Rogues is like, again, a pinnacle spec. Like, it plays so well with a healer, plays so well with a feral druid, it plays so well with a rogue, with a mage, plays so well with multiple things that I do agree that it deserves like the S tier position in most regards. Arcane Mage, let's talk about mage specs first. Arcane Mage is like a bit of a troll spec. You can make it work, but it's still a mage spec. It might be higher. It being a mage spec is not enough though, because it's still, I guess you could say it's a Pompyro. You can play Pompyro kind of arcane power, pyro spec. Going to still put it in C tier. I think you have cheese comps, which you can win instantly. It doesn't have the survivability of a Frost Mage, obviously. It doesn't have the stickiness of a Frost Mage as well. Yeah, I do believe like if I'm talking about Arcane Mage, I'm not talking like about a deep Arcane Mage spec. I'm probably playing like Arcane Power. You stop there. You go into Pyroblast, maybe even I think you can go lower than that because you're stopping on the Arcane Power. You would have Blast Wave, and that would give you like some instant damage. I think it's going to be C tier for me. Then Fire Mage, like if you're thinking about Fire Mage, it's Deep Fire Mage. And Deep Fire Mage is like on the same level as Arcane Mage. You have more CC. It's okay. I still think like, again, if you want to play Fire Mage, it's most likely better to play in threes, or you play random Gs, or you play Wrath. In TBC, like it is squishy. It doesn't have like the instant damage that you would get from Wrath and onwards. So there is a reason why, like again, Hot Streak and whatnot, you don't have that in TBC. But you have a lot of instant damage with like Fire Blast, your Blast Wave, and obviously you have your Dragon's Breath, which all three combined you can win games if you crit everything. But it's like, again, like you cannot base the spec on just that, because if the enemy survives that, then you're like really with nothing. You can maybe tempo a bit. I don't know. I want to put it higher because in my mind it can work, but I have never actually seen Fire Mages do well in arenas. And I tried it out, and yes, if you play like a very cheesy comp, you can like 100-0 someone, like in damage that you can do. But if you're missing that, it's like 100% loss, so I don't know. Assassination Rogue and Combat Rogue, for me, it's going to be like D tier specs, because it's like suboptimal. You can make it work because it's a rogue spec, but why would you like step away from Shadow Step, for example? I don't know, that's something a bit difficult to do in my mind. And Assassination Rogue, like you cannot blind, like you're going to have to play with poisons, and you cannot blind off like you would do in Wrath or Kata, because you would have a glyph for that, but you don't have a glyph in TBC. Arms Warrior is going to be S tier as well. There is a comp like Arms Warrior, Resto Druid, Arms Warrior, Resto Shaman. Those are the comps that you really want to play as an Arms Warrior. One for the offensive capacities with a Wind Fury, and the other one with Resto Druid, which is a bit more safer, a bit more sturdy, and you have like a good combination out of this, so it's quite good as well. Now we can talk about Fury Warrior. Why not? Fury Warrior is like suboptimal, like really. I would say it's E tier because it doesn't have the damage to like one-shot someone. It doesn't have the MS effect. It doesn't have a lot of stuff that Arms Warrior would do well. I tried Fury in PvP arenas. It's just not that great. What's good about Fury is in random BGs where you can like really be like the berserk that you are meant to be. But it just is like classic gameplay. Fury is just like PvE, and Arms Warrior is more about PvP. Retribution Paladin, I would say it's like, if you're thinking about Resto Shaman, Retribution Paladin, it is a reliable comp. If you're thinking about like double DPS comp, it can also work, but it's like, again, a bit harder, and a lot of the stuff that you're doing, for example, Avenging Wrath, which is a really cool ability, it can get spell stolen, so it's not fun to press versus mages, which you're going to fight 80% of the time in 2s, and even 3s, to be fair, like you're going to see a lot of mages. So for me, it's going to be a B tier spec. Now, you have obviously your Paladin. This is Paladin, Holy Shock Paladin. It's okay. You can do okay. I'm going to put them in E tier, A tier, maybe B tier to be fair. You have concepts where you can make it work. You're costing a lot still. I don't know if you have time to cost with like Mage and Rogues like being that abundant. You are surviving a bit more damage than the other specs, but often than not, you're going to be the one CC'd anyways. So yeah, for me, A tier I think it's correct because it's a healer, but I guess like you could even put it in B tier. This Grace is going to be S tier as well. Very, very good. You have offensive capacities. Mana Burn is a really big ability that you're going to spam because it is just TBC. TBC is about the mana burns in 2s and 3s whenever you have time, especially like on the later seasons. You're going to have more HP, more resilience. So obviously you have more time to mana burn people. And you have also one of the specs that have pain suppression, which a lot of specs don't have any like damage reduction ability yet, so you are really like a pioneer in that aspect. It's really top heavy, but it's because like those specs are really good, and then the other specs that are like a bit like, it's still viable but not that optimal. Survival Hunter, BM, and MM. Now MM, you can make it work. I'm going to put that in B tier. It's strong. It could be even as A tier, I think. A tier. Because if you're playing with a healer, especially like a Disc Priest, for example, you're going to mana drain. Mana drain is going to be the aspect you're going to make yourself win or lose. If you are able to mana drain like any spec, like even a mage, a druid. Now druid is very difficult, but whatever. A Disc Priest, that's like a win condition for you. You're not going to be able to do loads of damage as an MM Hunter because they're going to sit on you, but you are going to win with like a steady pace of gameplay. Obviously, a BM Hunter is going to be also A tier because I do believe like the first seasons you can make it work with just purely pressing your CDs, Peace Your Wrath, and you're unstoppable as well. And as a whole, you will lose a bit of CC with Scatter Shot, for example, especially if you're going deep BM. You should be going deep BM, but if you can play double DPS with Enhancement Shaman and you can run some people down, you can play with a healer, you can play with a Retribution Paladin, you can play with a Feral Druid. There are a lot of comps that you can play, and I do believe like Hunter is in a great spot for PvP. I think a lot of people are like underestimating it, but you have always people playing Hunter and go very high with it. It just is expected, a class that is requiring you to space out and CC efficiently, but also playing your Viper Sting game as best as possible. If you're playing versus someone that is actually purging your Viper Sting, you can bait it by just having a rank 1, and he would spend more mana dispelling that Viper Sting instead of like actually recognizing that it's a rank 1 Viper Sting. Elemental Shaman is going to be E tier. It's not good in arenas. You are highly trainable. You don't have Lava Burst. You have just like one go, and that's it. It's on the same vein as Fire Mage. Like, I think you can play like a cheese comp, and why not? But like, TBC Arenas is bursty, but not bursty to the point where you are like dying the first second of the arenas. That's very tough. Survival Hunter, let's say Survival Hunter is also A tier because it's the same kind of vein. Like, you're playing around like Viper. You could say Survival Hunter is a bit lower maybe, or like MM is a bit lower, but like it's interchangeable really. Enhancement Shaman is a bit higher in my mind. For me, it's C tier. You can make it work double DPS, especially with your Wind Fury totem. You can make it work with a healer maybe, but that's like very tough because you have mana issues. Like, mana issues are still a thing. You have ghost, like you have feral spirits, which is strong, but it's not like strong to the point where you're auto winning every single time with it. That's not going to happen. It is very fun though, and you can play even with a two-hander and maybe get like a lucky crit, which is going to one-shot someone. I wish there was a solo queue thing in TBC, because some specs are like, it could be nice in solo queue environment because you will not play versus like meta comps every single time, but like versus meta comps, you're going to have a tough time. Shadow Priest. Now, I do love Shadow Priest. I have like a lot of love for it. I do believe like it's a bit higher than Boomy. Simply because you can play double DPS and you are efficient with healing with Prayer of Mending, and you're going to lose Shadow Form all the time whenever you're doing arenas, because it's very hard to reapply because it costs mana. But you can win basically just playing like a semi DPS, semi healing, and most games you're going to win a lot, and some games you're going to lose a lot. It just is depending on who you're facing, and if your CC is enough to prevail. You can play Shadow Priest Rogue most of the time, you're going to make it work. You can also play Shadow Priest with a Frost Mage. I would play those comps instead of like playing with a healer, because that would be a very long match in my opinion. You have great execution potential with Shadow Word Death though. Protection Paladin, I'm going to put it F tier. Protection Warrior F tier as well. This is Fury Prot if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know what spec that might be. I might be wrong here. And then Holy Priest is going to be D tier, because it's still a healer, so you can still win some games because you're a healer. And a Restoration Shaman is going to be on the same tier as a Holy Paladin. I guess Holy Paladin deserves to be B tier, so you have like Resto Druid, Disc Priest, Resto Shaman A tier, Holy Paladin B tier. I think that makes sense. Resto Shaman has Wind Fury, so you can play with like a Retribution Paladin, which you would maybe one-shot someone as a Retribution Paladin, which is fun. You can play with a Warrior, that helps a lot. You can even play with a Rogue, why not? But that's a bit more squishy to play versus. Yeah, those are the comps that I would go. Could also go with a caster, but then you would lose the effect of actually having Wind Fury. But you have like an insane good time if you are playing the right comp. It's always like this. I think a lot of the stuff that you can see here on your screen is like, what if you're playing that comp? What if you're playing this comp? A lot of the things are like interchangeable. You could say every single spec has a +1, -1 rating, a tier depending on what comp they're playing. Like if you put Arms Warrior with a Retribution Paladin, it goes lower. Obviously, you can make it work, but it is squishy. If you're playing with a healer, now you can play the long game. If you're a Mass Effect, you can win games. If you're playing like a Feral Druid, you can play double DPS, but you also can play with a healer, or you can play with a caster, and then automatically it gets a bit lower because it's a lot easier to go for a cat form, like Cat Druid, to stop him from doing what he does. If you are like playing a Fury Warrior and you're playing with a healer, obviously it can go a bit higher because you're still a DPS with a healer, but you have to come with the conclusion of like, why would you play Fury Warrior over Arms Warrior, and is it really a benefit? Does it do anything? Does it make you win because of a burst or not? Do you have cheese? Those are the things that you can actually tell yourself. I do think like this tier list is accurate in my mind, but I could be wrong. Obviously Affliction Warlock is like high, Shadow Priest is a bit lower, Fire Mage as well, Arcane Mage as well. I think like something like that is making a bit more sense. You could swap these places inside of those tiers, but I'm not gonna like do that because I think a lot of stuff is interchangeable regardless. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.